So this is a pancetta, and you know what? You probably should take the paper off. No paper in the recipe.
We'll cut that. Forget about
Mistakes happen. Hello, I'm Katsuya Fukushima. I'm chef and owner in Washington, D.C. of Daikai Restaurant Group. And today we'll be making natto Bolognese. It's a style in Japan, it's called Wafu. It's a Japanese style Italian, Japanese style pasta. So let's get started. With the Bolognese, we like to have the types of beef cuts. This is the skirt steak, and you can see the marbling. And I like to use the skirt because it is very fatty, you can see. It gives a nice flavor. We have the flank steak, a little more fibrous, but it's very creamy. It's gonna add some nice flavor to the Bolognese. And so Wafu cuisine is a style of cooking that kind of emerged in the, I guess, 1890s. It's been around for a while. That's when the Japanese, opened up for other countries to come in, and it was the beginning of industrialization in Japan. There was some Italian influences, and today you can find a lot of Italian restaurants in Japan. But today we're going to do Wafu. Wafu is particular because it's for the Japanese palate. It's kind of a merge of Italian and Japanese. We got the pancetta, nice, and you got the layers of fat. It's gonna add some richness, some fattiness to it, which is gonna make it delicious. This is Spam. Don't hate on Spam. So my favorite way of eating Spam is probably Spam musubi. I'm half Hawaiian, so I do love Spam. It's charcuterie in a can. I use Spam because when it breaks down, it's gonna add some creaminess to the Bolognese. So we got our, I'm not gonna say the M word because it's not a French dish. This is a Italian, Japanese dish. This is a sofrito. Carrot, just a little rough chop because we're gonna send it right through the meat grinder. Cut up our celery. The traditional ratio is 2 parts onion to 1 part celery, 1 part carrot. Let's start grinding. And the reason we grind this is because you really don't find flank and skirt steak in the grocery store already ground. We wanted to use these cuts, so we have to grind it. All right. Look at that creamy goodness coming out. That thing sound right? The creamy goodness coming out. So now we're gonna go straight into the veggies, and you really don't have to clean it out because all this goodness is in here, and you wanna flush it out with the vegetables. It does save you a bunch of times and knife work. Sofrito ground up. We have our meats ground up. We're gonna put this in the refrigerator, and we're gonna get to our hondashi and our tomato sauce. We got our tomatoes. We're gonna send it through the food mill, just because you don't want to waste a lot of time breaking down these big whole tomatoes. And you also wanna get the seeds out and the skin. Our pot is warming up. We could actually add the oil to it. It actually started in Japan as Wafu pasta because Italians coming over or the soldiers going to Italy bringing back this fondness of pasta, and Japanese love noodles. And you'll find a bunch of Italian restaurants in Japan doing traditional Italian food. All right, so there's our garlic. You're gonna just smash it. Skin's fine. You're gonna take that out anyway. And once that oil is hot, what I like to do is kind of lean the pot over, submerge in oil. Otherwise, if it's sitting there, you're only cooking one side. Smell it, it's starting to lightly brown, and then you could toss your tomatoes in there. Just season with a little salt. Nicely simmering, beautiful. And you can add a little honey now. Sometimes the canned tomatoes are a little acidic. I like to use honey in my recipes only because sugar is so sweet, but it has no character. It's kind of a flat sweet. Also adds some thickness, some body. Our second part, we got our hondashi. Hondashi is a very common thing in Japan. What hondashi is to dashi as bouillon is to stocks. We'll give it a taste once it comes to boil. The tomato sauce, you just want to get it to thicken. This is a little watery, so you want it to get some body and cook out some of that rawness. We got everything set up. We got our mise en place. Pot's warming up. We're gonna add some oil, shimmering. You can see the shimmering of the oil. You can add the mirepoix. What you're trying to do here is just cook out the liquid of the vegetables and then start caramelizing slightly the veggies. We're gonna chop up our kimchi. We're gonna chop it fine and add it to a mirepoix. And it'll break down, so just you want to cut it fine. Something I like to add, and it's not traditionally Italian. It's not in the Bolognese that I know of, but that kind of makes it our Wafu style Italian. And you can see that it's getting a little dry, so you could add a little more oil now. Move this around to the edges, creating a little cure area. So what you want to do is add a little oil to the center, and that's going to be our landing spot for our meat. You can hear it searing, which is what you want. All right, that's frying away, nice. All right, now it's frying up, so we could actually mix everything together. And this is gonna go for a while. This dish is based on this little Japanese Italian restaurant that I went to right outside of Tokyo. One guy making pasta dishes, dried pasta, and he made a Bolognese with natto, and it blew my mind. People think natto is disgusting, but it is delicious. I smell it, building a fond, so that's good. And this is actually a good time to release that. So we're gonna add our sake and our mirin, glass of red wine. And then we could actually turn up the heat, and you wanna reduce that down. You wanna cook away all that alcohol, leaving just the flavors of the wine. It smells great, you can smell the alcohol burning off. So what you wanna do is get the wine cooked down as much as possible. And while that's simmering away, let me just cut up some scallions. Get a nice little diagonal cuts. We could add our tomato sauce now. Give this a stir. And you want to cook this down again. And then we can add our hondashi. Keep some on the side. And then we're gonna add a soy sauce. And that is our Japanese element there. Traditional bay leaf. And now we're just gonna let this go for like 2 hours. Turn down the heat a touch so it's just simmering. You come and check it and it's dry, you can always add your hondashi to facilitate the cooking and not burn it. Okay, so our Bolognese has been cooking for a while. Look at that. The oils are coming out, which is fine because once you toss it with the pasta, it'll emulsify back. Pasta water is good. We need to add salt. Never salt it like the ocean. That's the worst thing you could do because you will want to use the salt water to help finish the pasta with the sauce. So you salt it like the ocean, you're just gonna make this thing really awful. You'll destroy it. So don't do it. We got our pasta, our tagliatelle, look at that. This is our specially made pasta from Japan. It uses Hokkaido flour. And they call this taste something. It basically means hand massage. What you're doing is you're smashing the pasta and you'll get irregularities. It'll be a lot more fun in your mouth basically because it's not all the same size and texture and thickness. That should be enough. You can always add more. The last thing you want to do is add too much sauce. You don't want your pasta drowning in sauce. You want your pasta kind of glazed with that sauce. All right, so that's going. Get a little water because you want to cook the pasta in the sauce. You want to cook the pasta partially soft but not cooked through. Right in. So here's our natto. Always comes in these. Not always, but most of the time it comes in these self-portioned little styrofoam. So there's a bunch of hacks what you could do. You could take this lid off like this, and you can see the strings. And what you do is you just twirl it like a tornado and pull out all the strings. Another way you could do it, you take this lid, kind of pinch it, and then you pull it this way. So natto is soybeans. So you could get different types of natto. Some are whole beans, some are chopped, but they are soybeans that are cooked. And then you add a bacteria and you allow it to ferment. You get this. Smells wonderful, smells like cheese. And the Japanese love slimy food. So what you do is you take this and you start stirring. And stirring kind of agitates it and creates more slime. You get the gist, look at that. Tell me that doesn't look delicious. In Japan, natto is usually for breakfast. It's very common in breakfast, and you'll put over hot rice. The reason we put the natto in there is because, one, it's very Japanese, and it adds this umami like no other. After they boil it or steam it, they chop it up. And when they chop it up and ferment it, it's less funky. It's kind of a easy introduction to natto. And pasta's going. Wow. Exciting, exciting. Got a beautiful bowl here. A good thing about making bolognese, you just make a lot. You can freeze it. If you're gonna spend all that time making it, you might as well make a lot because it's not something you can just whip up anyway. We're gonna put our beautiful natto on top. A very common component to natto is scallions. And then we got our cheese. Cheese and natto is great. Cheese and bolognese is great. So we're gonna rain this on. Natto bolognese. And natto's great. You get the red wine flavor, you get the cheese, the pasta's delicious, it's springy and chewy. The natto is not like in your face. It gives a nice funkiness to it, just kind of like the cheese. For the recipe, click down below. If not, we'll cook it for you. Just come down to DC, Tonari restaurant. While you're there, you could try out the Japanese restaurants and the chicken, ramen, and